Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session. My name is Anka, and I'm here to walk you through SocialBee. If you're not familiar with SocialBee yet, we're a social media scheduling tool, and we help you with creating, organizing, analyzing, scheduling, and engaging with your content. So before we actually dive into the actual webinar, let me also introduce my colleague Andrea, who's here to help us with anything we may need in the chat. And I also want to ask you one question. So I'm going to re-ask this question again at the end of the webinar, but I want to know, how well do you think you know SocialBee? I'm expecting a few lower grades there, but be honest and let me know, how well do you think you know SocialBee? And then I'll ask it again at the end of the webinar to see if anything changed. Oh, and say hi in the chat. Feel free to talk, to ask questions, but for the questions, please add them into the Q&A box, which is somewhere down here, as this will give us a better visibility over the questions and we'll be able to answer them quickly. I also wanted to briefly mention that this webinar is recorded, so you will be getting the recording afterwards. And yeah, I think that's it. So I'll stop the poll. I see that there's no one who thinks they know SocialBee above a 3, so above the average. So let's hope we change that by the end of today's session. I will share my screen with you guys and get things started. So let's see if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, perfect. I also already see a question on getting a TikTok integration soon. We already have TikTok, so you already have it. Okay, so what you're currently seeing is the SocialBee dashboard, essentially what you'll see every single time you log in. In here, you'll see an overview of all of your connected social profiles, and you'll also be able to see all of the platforms that you can connect to SocialBee, which are Facebook, Instagram, Threads, the whole Meta suite, Pinterest, LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, Google Business, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, which is a Twitter alternative, and we also have something called universal posting, which is there to help you with semi-automating content to other platforms that don't have a direct integration with SocialBee. I say semi-automate because you will only be able to publish via mobile reminders on your phone through universal posting. Moving back into the dashboard, you'll be able to control whether each one of your profiles is pushing out content. So you can set your content to running or pause for each profile individually. This means that you can control whether content is being set out to specific profiles. You also have multiple other controls in the social accounts tab here at the top right corner, where you can set the time zones for your profiles once it loads. Hopefully my internet connection does not play tricks on me today. Let's actually refresh this to see what's going on. There we go. Okay, so you can set the time zones and additional settings for each one of your profiles. If you need to publish via mobile reminders, which is something that right now is only a thing for personal Facebook profiles, and if your content does not adhere to the API regulations of that platform. So for instance, if you're sharing multiple videos on Instagram or an image that's outside of the aspect ratios that are recommended or things like that, you can also set up your mobile reminders from here. Because I also see it in the chat, TikTok can publish directly. There are a few limitations on how you can set up your content to publish directly, but it can, and I'll go through it when we get to publishing. Right now, I also wanted to quickly share the pricing of SocialBee. So if you're not yet a user of SocialBee, we have three main tiers: Bootstrap, Accelerate, and Pro. Also available monthly or yearly. You can choose the right plan that works for you. So essentially, go for Bootstrap if you only need around 5 social profiles and 1 user in your workspace. Go for Accelerate if you need around 10, or Pro, or even higher if you're an agency, if you work with multiple clients, if you need more users, more workspaces, if you have needs for a lot more social profiles. And there's also agency tiers, which amplify the Pro even further. You'll also have a few options on add-ons. So if you want to customize your content, your plan further, you can do that through adding users, workspaces, or even social profiles, depending on your actual needs. So now that we got that out of the way, let's actually focus on the features that you'll have for SocialBee, regardless of the plan that you're on. And this is the beauty of SocialBee. Most of the features that you'll see in today's webinar are available regardless of the plan. And when they're not, I'll mention it so that you are aware. Now, SocialBee has 4 main components when it comes to everything that you can do. You can create content, you can schedule content, you can analyze content, and engage with content. Within the creation part of your content, there are 2 menu items that you can work with, which is the content menu, where you organize, create, and plan out your content, and the social media copilot, which is an AI assistant that's meant to help you generate a strategy for your content. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you just want fresh eyes, if you want to brainstorm ideas, this is great. It's a way for you to generate a content strategy, as I said earlier. So it will start by asking you a few questions. I've already pre-filled this so that we save some time, but it will ask you to answer a few questions, and the more details you provide in these, the better it gets. Then it will ask you to select the social profiles that you want to use. And once you've done that, it will start suggesting content categories. Now, within these categories, if you're not familiar with the concept of categories, you can think of them as types of content or content pillars or buckets or folders or however you want to call them. Essentially, they are a way for you to organize your content so that it makes it easier for you to schedule your content. So for instance, if we go look at the weekly blog post category that I have here, instead of me having to manually schedule 1 blog post every week, let's say on Wednesdays, I can just schedule the entire category to post consistently on Wednesdays. So that saves me a lot of time. Now, you can use the categories that the copilot suggests, or you can create your categories from scratch. I here have a mix of both categories that we've created and categories that are suggested via the copilot. So you can just create the mix that works best for you. Once you do that, you can move a step further and generate a schedule based on those categories. This will help by making sure that your content is pushed out at the right times. So the copilot actually looks at your analytics for the profiles that you've selected and the types of content that you have, and it makes up the best times to post for whenever your audience is online and interacts with that type of content. So this is great to kind of get that best practices schedule going. And then from this, you can actually manage it further depending on your preference. Moving forward from here, you can also generate content ideas. My suggestion is to use this part to kind of get the ideation part out, to brainstorm the new ideas, to create the bulk of the posts, and then go in one by one and actually add that personal touch to the post so that you truly make them your own. You can see them all here. So if you hover your mouse over, you'll see the caption, and then you'll see that each one of your posts has an actual note. With that, you will get a suggestion for a visual that you can use. You can either use that note and generate AI imagery, or you can create your own image or video based on the note that you have here. So if you're happy with these, you can just select them and use them in your content. And then you'll be redirected back to the dashboard where you can start the process all over again or work on your next batch of content. So now that we've done that, let's actually visit the content menu as well to get a better understanding of what we have here. So as I said, this is the place to be whenever you're creating, importing content, or organizing your content. So the first thing you'll notice is that you have all of your categories here. You have the ability to create new categories, and you also have something called content without a category. Content without a category is a queue-based system. In this case, it means that you can schedule your content at specific time and dates without needing to add it into a category. However, if you prefer the category-based system, you'll find out that you save a lot more time in the long run. So with the category system, you'll be able to control each category in so much detail. So you'll be able to make sure that your content goes out in the right order as categories publish in a top to bottom order. So you'll be able to see them in here. You'll be able to approve them if they're set to draft mode. You'll be able to control category settings to a bigger extent by making sure that your posts requeue or they don't, by making sure that you add UTM parameters or short links to your categories. You can even color code your categories and make sure that everything is to your liking. Just as I said before, if you want to schedule the category, that's something that you'll do in the schedule setup, and I'll reach that point and show you how it's done in a minute. But before we schedule content, we also need to kind of add content, right? So there's a few ways in which you can add content into your categories. You can obviously add it manually, and we'll take you through the post editor in a bit. But you also have a few tools here on the left at your disposal, tools that will help you make this process a lot easier. Starting with hashtag collections, this will help you save your hashtags into collections or buckets so that you have them ready to go for whenever you're creating content. You then have three options to bulk import content, whether it's media files, links, or CSV files, specifically useful if you're moving on from a different platform. And you also have something called RSS, which essentially connects your RSS feed to SocialBee so that whenever something new gets published on your blog, for instance, it automatically gets imported into SocialBee. This is what we have here. This is SocialBee's blog. It's connected to the weekly blog post category, so I don't have to go in and check to see if my colleagues published new content on the blog. I can just go in here and make sure that the content is in my category. Now, there's also a lot more advanced settings like Zapier, Pabbly, Make. These integrations will help you create an ecosystem within your tools so that you have it all easier and connected. And then you also have a browser extension, which will allow you to pick up content on the go. So if you're reading an article and you find that it's a great read and that you want it shared on your social media, you can just click on the browser extension and oh no, it logged me out. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. These logouts are normal every now and again. So I'm just gonna log back in. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. We're back. It doesn't give a warning, but it doesn't give a warning. Gmail doesn't give a warning either. So it's nothing new. It's something that is done as a precaution to make sure that you don't stay logged in on a computer that maybe is not used by only you and things like that. So at a certain time, it does require you to log back in. Again, as a safety precaution, for me, it was just time now. Probably should have made sure that I did that before the webinar, but now I know for next time. Anyways, so we have the browser extension, and then finally in here you also have the content approval system to kind of review and approve and collaborate with team members on different posts. So in the content approval system, you'll only see content that's set to draft mode. And again, I'm hoping my internet connection is not playing tricks on me and not loading it correctly, but here is where you'll see all the content that's set to draft mode. Let me refresh this. This is embarrassing. Okay. In the meantime, let's see what's in the chat here. Will the content approval system be available via the app? At the moment, no. In the future, very likely. But at the moment, no. So these are the posts that are set to draft. Right now, these are the posts that we've just added with the copilot, and they are added into paused categories, which is why they are grayed off, just to let you know that they are not publishing. But I can also filter, let's say, for RSS feed posts. And this will only show content that has been brought in through the RSS feed. So in this case, let's say I'm reviewing blog posts and I want my colleague Andrea to help me with some visuals. I'm not good at visuals, and maybe I don't really want to use the same visual that's on the article. So I will ask Andrea to actually create some visuals for me for these posts so that we make them the best that they can be. What I can do is I can leave a note under each post, and I'll just tag Andrea and let her know, can you please help me with creating a visual for this post? It should have something to do with TikTok, since the article is about TikTok. Now, obviously, this is quite broad, and Andrea doesn't actually have to do it, but this is a great way to send feedback to whoever needs to see it. So in this case, Andrea will be getting a notification on her email, letting her know that I've tagged her and letting her know what my feedback is and on what post, so that she can actually help with whatever I've asked her to. You'll also see that whenever you take action on a specific post, it will pop up in the post history in the notes here, just to let you know that I approved this post or that I set it to draft, so that you know exactly who did what. What happens if you don't tag anyone? Will a notification be sent to the whole team? No, the notification is only sent to those who have the get notified enabled. So you can also follow specific posts so that you can get notified whenever someone takes action. In that case, if you're not specifically tagging anyone, only those who have this enabled will be getting that notification. Other people can actually just see the note on the post here. So you'll be able to see it like one note. Okay, so now that we have gone through all the ways in which you can control and import content, let's open up the post editor so that you can see how you can work on creating content from scratch. So the content editor looks like this. It's split in two, where you have the left-hand side for editing content and the right-hand side for previewing your content. And you'll be able to select the social profiles that you want to work on. So if they are colored, they are selected. If they are not colored, they are not selected. In this case, I have deselected X, and now I only have LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And by the way, yes, this does remember your previous selection so that you don't have to do it over and over again. So right now, all I need to do is actually add my text and create my post from scratch if I wanted to do that. But let's say I want to share a breakfast recipe and I am not exactly sure how to compose that. So what I can do is that I can use the AI tool in the post editor to generate captions, to generate images, or to customize my caption for each profile. In this case, I'll first go into the captions, where I can choose from several prompt collections available. These are based on industries, types of content, actions that you can take, as well as social profiles that you want to work with. And you also have a button here to randomize templates if you want to maybe brainstorm content. So you can actually do this for as long as you need to until you get the one that you're happy with. Other than that, you are also able to save your preferred prompts into your favorites, and that way you can use it from here. I already saved this one knowing that I wanted to use it. And so I am going to use the favorite healthy breakfast recipe. Let's say I'm a fitness coach, and this is what I want to share on today. So I'm going to work with a informational tone of voice, since I'm an expert in the industry and I want to make sure that I convey that in my posts. You have several options to choose from when it comes to tone of voice. I want this post to be around 200-ish words. So I'm just going to work with that. And yes, I do want to generate hashtags and include emoji in my post. And then I'll just hit generate and take a sip of water while it does that. Once I have my content generated, which you can see I have now, I can just read it and figure out which one works best for me. So I think for me personally, I like the last one. I'm going to select it, and the first one. So I'm going to select that one as well. Now that I have that, I'm going to use these into my post. And what you'll see is that it generated 2 variations for my content. So essentially, if I'm publishing this post multiple times, I can actually share it multiple times without it being an exact duplicate. So the first time I'm sharing this content, variation 1 goes out. The second time I'm sharing this content, variation 2 goes out. And even though it's the same recipe and therefore the same idea in the post, it's shared in a different way so that it's not an exact duplicate and it still stays fresh in your audience's eyes. I see that you guys are adding some questions in the chat. Please make sure to add them into the Q&A, because if I address them now, then we will never get out of this demo. And I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I want to go through the entire features that we have to, and then at the end, I will address all the questions. So make sure to add them into the Q&A box, please. Okay, so we have our post. I'm just going to, let's say on the first variation, I want to add the link to the recipe, which supposedly is on my blog. So I'm just going to type in socialbee.com. This will actually add a preview of the blog post so that you can click on it and see what it would look like. And then on the second variation, I can use the AI to generate images. When I generate images, I can either add my own prompt in here, or I can choose one of the prompts that is suggested. And then let's say I want to generate 3 images, I can do that quickly, and then it will work on actually generating those images here. A few other things that you can do when it comes to visuals is you can include Canva images. You can work with Canva directly in SocialBee, and you also have integrations with Giphy or Unsplash for royalty-free images so that you can actually use them directly in SocialBee without any issue. And with the AI, you can actually use it in any language. You just have to specify the language. So if I wanted the copy of this recipe to be in Spanish instead, I could have just said, provide this in Spanish, and it would have worked. So you can see the options here. Let's say I like this one best. So I'm going to select it and use it in my post. And there we go. Now we have this amazing breakfast bowl that is actually starting to make me hungry for breakfast. Okay, so we have the two variations here, but we also have a few errors. So in here, it's telling me that Instagram requires an image or a video. I've already added that one. It'll disappear shortly. There we go. So now that one does not have an error anymore. But on the first variation, we have this Instagram cannot have a link preview error. So it's telling me that I cannot share a link on Instagram because effectively Instagram does not allow it. So what I can do is I can customize my post for each profile and only tweak it wherever I need to. So in this case, I'll hit customize. You'll see it's warning me where the error is. So I can just click on that and it automatically removed my link, so I don't have to actually work on removing it. And I can upload something from my computer, work with Canva or the other integrations that I mentioned. And I can even bring in images from the link that I previously had. Let's say I want to add a video. I don't have one of a recipe, but let's pretend this is that. Once I add a video, I'll be able to also automatically have it selected as feed and reel, which is important for you to share content to your reels on Instagram, for instance. You can choose between feed, reels, and stories for Instagram, feed, reels, and stories for Facebook. You have a few options when it comes to each platform so that you can access those platform specific features for each one of these. And when it comes to platforms like YouTube or TikTok or Pinterest, you will have a few additional requirements that you need to meet in order to make sure that you can publish there. So for YouTube, for instance, you will need to add a title to your post. For TikTok, you will need to select a privacy option and choose whether you want to allow users to comment or duet or stitch this video. For Pinterest, you will need to select a board and also make sure that you add a URL to your post and add a title and so on. So there's a few things that you need to do. I'm going to deselect these for now so that you can actually publish that content. Okay, so we have created this content. We are happy with it. It's time to move into the scheduling. So when you do that, you'll see that you have three options available. You can post it immediately by toggling this on and then saving your post. You can add specific posting times. When you do this, you will override any category settings, first of all, so you can still include that post in a category, but it will only go out whenever that post is scheduled. So if I wanted to publish this on the 22nd of October at 9:23 a.m., I could do that. And by the way, SocialBee suggests the best time to post for each profile according to when your audience is online. So you'll see that suggested time in a yellow border, and it does change from day to day so that you can make sure that you're working with the right time for your particular audience. So I can do that, and then I can go in and add another posting time, let's say on the 24th, to maximize my two variations that I have here. This means that the first variation will get published on the 22nd and the second variation on the 24th. If I don't want to add a specific posting time, however, I can just add it into a category of my choice, let's say case studies in this case, and we can add it to the top of the queue or to the bottom of the queue. What does this mean? It means that top of the queue, your content is the next one to get published because categories publish in a top to bottom order. So the topmost post will go out first. If you add it bottom of your queue, that means your content will go out last. So essentially it's first in, first out versus last in, first out. You also have an option to choose whether you want this post to requeue or not. So you have full control over it, and you also have options to expire your post, either after it's been published a number of times. In this case, I have two variations. So let's say I want to expire it after it's been published twice, or at a specific date, just to make sure that you're not ending up with a Halloween post in December. So if you have any campaigns that are time bound, that are specific to a specific holiday, make sure you expire that content so that you don't accidentally post it when you're not supposed to. When you're happy with it, you can also just save your post either as a draft if you still need to review it or work with team members, or directly as approved if you're ready for it to go out. And this concludes the content module of SocialBee. So we're moving into the schedule, which is the second step that you need to take. The schedule setup here is a weekly pattern that you can use to create a schedule with your categories. So this is the keyword of this menu. Categories is what you're scheduling. And you can do this across all of your platforms, or you can filter it and create one individually for each one of your existing profiles. So let's say I want to work with Instagram here. I can view this in a compact view. I can view it in a calendar view. This one's a little more aired out, but I personally prefer the compact view because it's a lot more compact. And below it, you also have some statistics allowing you to see how your content mix looks like. So if you're working with something like an 80-20 rule, where 80% of your content provides value and 20% of your content promotes your business, you can look at this and figure out exactly how much content you're sharing in a week and what percentage from each category is working towards your goals. So if I'm working on the 80-20 rule, Zero click and weekly blog posts are categories that are adding value to me, and product spotlight is promoting our business. Let's say I want to add another product spotlight on Instagram on Saturdays. I can just do that and see that this has changed immediately. So now if I look at the total per week, I see that I have 2 zero click, which is an engagement category that I use, 2 posts from Product Spotlight, and 1 weekly blog post every week. That means I have a total of 60% valuable content and 40% promotional content, which I'm not saying is not valuable, but it is a hard sell. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. So it doesn't really work with my strategy of 80-20. So I'm going to just delete this one. You can obviously change it as well if you need to. Now it's a lot more balanced. It's a lot more closer to my 80-20 approach. Now, once you have it all set here, you can move into the next posts menu, and this is where you'll see the next posts that are meant to go out. And you'll see them per individual social profile, so you will need to filter for your profile first. Let's say we want to do this for Instagram. We can see the next pieces of content that are set to go out in a list mode. In this case, starting with your next post. You'll also see them in a calendar view, which will give you a better overview of the entire thing and give you some closer looks at where you still need to add content. So whenever you see something that says we could not find posts for this time slot, that's a category placeholder. It will be there until you add and approve content for that category. When you do, it will just show up just like this here. If you don't add new content, it'll just skip that time zone, that time slot until you actually add new content in there. So right now, I know that I'm all set with content until October 9th, but I do have to set some content for October 10th. Sticking with the next post for Instagram, and I know this was a comment in the chat earlier, you have full control over how your feed will look like. So you can see and reorder the content from here. You can look at the content in this grid preview and reorder it in your category so that you make sure that it goes out in the correct order. Essentially, you'll see that this is the next post in line. So the bottom post is the one that's next up, and it just builds on top, just like your regular content on Instagram. And if anything fails to post for whatever reason, you'll see it failed here so that you actually understand what's going on. So I had a bad resolution for the video that I uploaded there, which meant that I wasn't able to share it back in August. So I left it here just to kind of have it as a showcase for what could possibly go wrong with your content. Moving into the third section in SocialBee, we have the analytics, and this again is per social profile. So you will be needing to filter for individual social profiles. Let's stick with LinkedIn this time, and you also have different presets for whenever you need to work on different time frames. So in here, you'll be able to access the last 3 months worth of content when you're on a bootstrap plan, and that's historical data regardless of whether you're using SocialBee or not. You'll be able to use up to 2 years worth of data on Accelerate and Pro. And with Pro, you also get a custom time frame selector, so you can go through different time frames as well. And in here, you'll have 4 tabs that will be providing you with information and 1 tab that will help you export said information. So page analytics will give you an overview of how your page is performing. In this case, it'll look at how much content you've published, the growth of your organization, the engagement for your page, for your post, the reach, the overall follower count, demographics, and other metrics that are relevant to each individual platform. You'll also see it all compared to the previous similar period. So we're looking at last month. Since today is the 1st of October, that means the entire September. So it's comparing September's growth to August's growth. And in this case, it seems like we have been growing more in September than we have in August. But on the other hand, it does the same for page engagement, and it seems like the page engagement has dropped in September as compared to the previous month, which is August. So these are metrics that it's a good idea to monitor so that you can see exactly what happens with your content. Speaking of content, you'll have more detailed analytics in the post analytics. Here you'll be able to see the average reach per post, the best type of content that you're sharing. And if it's unknown, it's just because it's a PDF and SocialBee doesn't support PDFs at the moment. You'll see the evolution of your posting so that you make sure that you're being consistent with your content, and you'll also see the evolution of your reach. This is working better if you're looking over higher periods of time because it gives you more of a better overview of it. But obviously you can also work with it within a month's time if you have more content. Essentially, this will help you figure out if you have any spikes in your reach, if you have any drops in your reach, where you're sitting with the average reach compared to how many highs and lows you have, and how you can improve them and make your reach bigger with each new post. You'll also get it all broken down into category metrics and types of posts so that you can effectively get a better understanding of how every single type of content that you're sharing is performing. The Insights tab will be providing a lot more detailed insights on these. So essentially, you'll see the distribution of your content throughout the day, which will help you get a better understanding of when your audience is getting your content. Let's take the purple dots here for an example. This is our zero-click category, which for LinkedIn is currently scheduled at, I believe, 10 p.m. my time. So right now it's telling me that 10 p.m. is getting some distribution, but there's a lot more people who would be getting it around 8 p.m. So I can move it back and actually work on 8 p.m. Depending on what I want to achieve with that particular category, I might want to consider moving it or not. If I want impressions, it might just be different than engagement. And then at the bottom here, you also have your top performing content for the time frame that you've selected, just to make sure that you are aware of what outperformed everything else in your account. Post history will give you a complete history of your content that's been published in that time frame, whether it comes from SocialBee, in which case you'll see the category there, or outside of SocialBee, in which case you'll see external post as a label. You get all the information on the post, so in analytics, insights, engagement rate, and even be able to reuse content. Even if it hasn't been published through SocialBee, you can bring it into SocialBee this way. So it's a great tool to have. And you can filter it for best performing, worst performing, chronological order, so that you can actually look for the content that you need to. And if you see a typo or something and you want to edit that, you can just click on the timestamp and it will take you to the actual post so that you can make the changes that you need to the published post. Now, finally, we have the export tab. This is only available on the Pro plans at the moment, and it will allow you to export your information into a PDF report. So this is particularly built for agencies because you can upload the logo, let's say, of your client, and I didn't upload it. Let's do that again. There we go. And add a summary with whatever it is that you're explaining in those analytics, as well as selecting the different types of analytics that you want to include in that report, and then just download it as a PDF and send it to whoever needs to see it. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle in SocialBee, so to speak, is the Engage dashboard, which will allow you to monitor and manage any comments, mentions, or DMs across the different channels that you're using. So in this case, you can actually see the content, interact with the content. So for instance, like the comments, as well as reply to it directly in SocialBee. And as you can see, we've already replied to these, but essentially you can just type in your reply from here and then just send it on its merry way. I obviously won't do that right now. And yeah, that's it on SocialBee's platform. So I am going to drink some water and then I'm going into the questions. So before I go into the questions, I am curious, where is that poll? There we go. I'm curious to see if you feel like you've gotten a better grasp on SocialBee or not yet. So let me know now, how well do you feel you know SocialBee after this demo? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of changes. I'm seeing 3s, 4s, and 5s, which is great. But I'm also seeing some 1s and 2s in here. So I'm curious if that means that you're just not very familiar with SocialBee yet, or if this demo didn't address the questions that you had or the needs that you had. And if that's the case, let me know and I'll be happy to clarify those as well. So before I go into the questions, if you're not yet a SocialBee user, I also wanted to take this opportunity to share a discount code as a thank you for being with me today on this webinar up until now. So you can use the code webinar20 to get 20% off of your first year on a monthly plan or yearly option at checkout. And now I'm diving into the questions. I see there's quite a few of them, so let's see. The first question. Hi, Anka. Can you post differently with more features if we have a Facebook professional profile? So the Facebook professional profile is still a personal profile. Unfortunately, this is the new development. with Facebook. So they haven't included it into the API yet. They will probably at some point, but for right now, unfortunately, any type of personal profile, whether it's a professional profile or not, does not have the option to schedule content directly ever since 2018, I want to say. The Cambridge Analytica scandal, ever since then. So unfortunately, no, there's no difference between a Facebook profile and a professional profile. There is a difference if you have a professional page, because with a page, you can publish directly. Will you be adding a way to add credit, to credit music or audio when auto-publishing? Unfortunately, this does not depend on us. I'm assuming you're talking about Instagram and TikTok. This is not something that is a part of their API. It probably has something to do with copyright limitations. So at the moment, this is not possible, regardless of whether it's SocialBee or not. But if it does become available, then yes, we will probably be adding it as a way to do so. Until then, if you want to add trending sounds, you will only have to do it via mobile reminders, regardless of whether you're using SocialBee or other tools that are similar to SocialBee. Are there any plans to be able to group categories similar by adding them to the random category? Not sure I completely understand your question. The random category, just to go over it really quickly, is a feature that you can enable on all of your categories. So only the ones who have this feature enabled will be taking part. I guess that's one way to group them. And it's a way to kind of schedule a random time slot so that one of your posts goes out every time. So you're being a little more spontaneous, which means that if you're including a random category, you'll be able to do it like this. There's also a more advanced feature that I won't go into details now because it overcomplicates things. It's called next in category sequence. And if you want me to give you more details on that, I can via email. So just email me at anka@socialbee.com, and I'll be able to provide you with more information on that. Or reach out to our success team at success@socialbee.com. Is there a way to toggle show or hide posts that have been already posted? I want to recycle my content at some point, but probably a while away. And in the meantime, I don't want to see them. You cannot hide them per se. You can move them maybe into a different category that you're not using actively, and you can just call that an archive category or something, and in that way you won't be able to see them in your category. Alternatively, what you can do is export them into a CSV. That's something that our team can do for you, and then have them there and re-import them whenever you want to reuse them. Otherwise, just keep them as drafts in your category and you should be fine. Is there a way to have posts set to draft automatically when creating content? At the moment, if you have admin rights, no. You will be able to choose with each individual post if it's published, if it's saved as a draft or as approved. If you're a contributor in someone else's account, however, in that case, you will only be able to add it as a draft. Is there a way to save a list of captions and emojis for reuse? Right now, I'm saving them with the hashtags list. Yeah, that's a good way to do that. I feel like that's, dare I say, the best way to do that right now. You could also just save them into a CSV file, and then you can import the CSV file whenever you want to use them. And if you don't know how to save them in a CSV file, you have the option to download a sample from here so that you can work directly on that. You can also save them as drafts in, let's say, a template category, and then just go into that category. Let's go do that. I'll do this here. And then you have the button to duplicate that post, in which case it would just copy it, and you can then just work on the duplicate. So that's also something that you can do. Can we go live on several networks at the same time and receive and respond to questions and comments? Unfortunately, this is not something that you can do with SocialBee. I'm assuming you can do that directly on each platform, and there probably is a tool that will help you with this kind of scenario. But with SocialBee, you cannot go live directly from SocialBee, unfortunately. When I tried to select YouTube to post a post, it told me you have to put the video in first. Well, if you're creating post and you're selecting YouTube, the first thing you need to know is that YouTube has additional requirements. So in this case, if I select YouTube, it will automatically prompt me to customize my content for each profile, which means that if I do this, it will essentially make me do the post individually for each profile. What I can do instead is, and what I recommend that you do, is to add your visuals. Let's say in this case, it would be the video. If I only added it to, there we go. Add your caption here. So add the common elements and then select the platforms like TikTok or YouTube. And then when this prompt comes around, now you already have it all copied and you only need to make the necessary changes, in which case right now it would be the title to the post. So I think that answers your question, but let me know if it doesn't. Can you explain further how variations work? I'm very interested in this and to use it. Absolutely, yes. So when you're creating content, depending on how often you're sharing that piece of content, if you want to reshare it multiple times, the idea is that you will want to reshare the concept of the post, not the exact same post. If you do want to share the exact same post, you can do that as well. But in that case, you don't need variations. If you, let's say, want to create a countdown to an offer, like, okay, let's use the webinars example. In this case, if I wanted to say, hey, join our next demo webinar here. And we would add in socialbee.com/webinars. Which is where you can see all of our next webinars. And then let's say I want to create a countdown to my webinar, which is in 5 days. So I can just add a variation and say something like, there are 4 days left until our next webinar. And then I can add another variation and say there are 3 days left, and then another variation, and there's 1 hour left, and so on. So I can create a countdown. I can also reuse this to use the example that I used initially with the recipe to reshape and reformulate the same idea so that it works for sharing multiple times. Whenever you're working with variations, it's important to note that you will either have to add multiple posting times if you're using the queue-based scheduling, or have requeue enabled if you're using category scheduling. Because if you have this as disabled, you will only get this post published once, regardless of how many variations you have. So having this as enabled means that, let's say you have 5 posts in the case studies category, and this is one of the posts, the topmost, right? So post 1, this is post 1. It will publish the first time the category is scheduled with variation 1. Then it will go to post 2, it will go to post 3, it will go to post 4, post 5. Because it's set to requeue, it will loop back into the top and work on post 1 again. But because we've already published variation 1, variation 2 is next in line. So in this case, it will go through variation 2 and then go through the other post and loop back again and go through variation 3 and then go through variation 4 and so on. So that's how variations work. A next question. I'm just getting started with the setup and I have the categories paused while I'm drafting a bunch of posts. But I've noticed that the schedule that I generated with the copilot and then customized has disappeared. Is this because the categories are paused? So typically, there might be a few things that could cause that. If you have more than 10 social profiles connected, SocialBee will no longer show all of the schedule across all of your all of your profiles, just to avoid any visual clutter. So in that case, you will see it per social profile. And if you, by any chance, have a profile that doesn't have a schedule, it might seem like your entire schedule disappeared, but it's not the case. It's just that you don't have a schedule for that particular profile. If you do have the show all enabled and you have no schedule, then it might be that you accidentally deleted the schedule. There's a delete all button here, or made changes to it in any way, but you can always regenerate it from the copilot here. And then obviously what you've customized on your own would have to be redone, but at least you have that starting point. If I input my own caption and graphic for an Instagram and Facebook post, how do I use variations for this? You have a button to add your own variations. So you can always add variations manually as well as through the AI tool. Also, if you can explain requeuing posts, what it is and what it does, when and why it can be used. I've already explained what it is and what it does and how it works. When and why this can be used, if you have any content that's not time sensitive, let's say a listicle, let's say I sell water bottles. This is the funniest example that I always end up giving. And I share content on my blog saying these are 10 tips on drinking more water. Those 10 tips will still be valid 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 months from now, tomorrow, today, yesterday. They're valid. They are going to make you drink more water. So you want to reuse and maximize that type of post that is not time sensitive to bring the most traffic to your website or to convert the most, or whichever reason you have for using it. You can also requeue content that's time sensitive, but in that case, just make sure you have an expiration date so that you don't actually requeue it afterwards. Why it can be used? It can be used to maximize the reach of your content, essentially, and help you with having content put out there with minimal effort, because that way you can focus on creating more quality content instead of just having to constantly put up new content that might not be the best quality because of the stress of having to create new content every time. Is there a way to make a post and tag a location inside SocialBee? If you're talking about Instagram, yes, there is. So once you customize this post for each profile, I'll just remove the other two so that we are left with Instagram so it's easier to see. You have this location pin here, and if you click on it, you'll be able to add a location. So let's say I want to add London here. I can type in London. It will look for all the locations that have a page or a business connected to it in London, and that way I can actually pick the one that works for me. Let's say I want to go to the Tower of London. There we go. So now I have this as my location. And this is right now only available on Instagram, unfortunately. So you do have to customize for each profile in order to use it, but yes, it is available. Okay, next question. Is there a place to submit requests? Grouping categories would be great per the other user questions. Yes, there is a place to submit requests. Actually, you have a help menu here at the bottom left corner where you have an option to send feedback, to ask questions. This reaches our team directly, so you can get in touch with them with whatever it is that you need. You also just are able to book a call with our team or reach out to us via email, success@socialbee.com. And there's also a product roadmap, which is on Trello, where you can actively vote on different features that we are looking into adding. You'll be able to see what's next in line, and you'll be able to also submit any requests that you might have as well. How can I add TikTok in the Engage dashboard? To my knowledge, TikTok is not currently accepting. It doesn't have it in their API to have comments visible in the Engage dashboard. But you can essentially add any platform where it's allowed by selecting it from here. So if you have TikTok as available and not grayed out, that means that you're able to add it. If you don't, that means it's not available right now. And once you do select, let's say LinkedIn in this case, you will see the available options. So for LinkedIn, it's mentions and comments. For Facebook, it's also DMs, and you'll be able to see it across the different platforms differently. What's the name of the feature you mentioned that we could email you about? The next in category sequence. That's the advanced feature that I mentioned. Webinar 20 code is only giving a 4% discount on annual bootstrap plan. That's correct. The reason behind it is that it cumulates with the existing offer, which is 16% off of the annual price. So if you actually do the math on that plan, and let me actually switch to pricing here so that I can actually show you what I mean. 12 months worth of Bootstrap would be $348 in a year. But with the 16% off that's already there, you pay $290. So to match the 20% off that we're giving on monthly, we've added an extra 4% discount on top of the 16 that's already here. So you still get 20%. It's just split between two different discounts. I wish there was a way to copy a category content into another category and still leave the original posts in the original category. Right now, you can only move posts from one category to another. This feature would be a welcome one. Yeah, okay, I can push that to the product team. In the meantime, one thing you can do is a little bit more labor intensive, but you can duplicate the posts and then just move the duplicates, and that way you would have them in both, essentially. Is there a way to delete old draft posts from the category folders? Yes, there is. If you want to delete everything that's old and set to draft, you can use the bulk editor. Select your draft post. I'll just use this duplicate that I've already, that I've recently copied. And then from the actions button, you have a delete button that you can use. And this would work with deleting everything all at once. Individually, you should have a trash icon, just like this one, on each post. However, I know for a fact that our team mentioned that there's a little display issue right now going on with the trash icon not popping up on the actual posts. So we're working on bringing that back. In the meantime, you can use the bulk editor to delete. I missed the screen where you save a categories post to a CSV, or did I misunderstood? Can I save all the posts from a particular category to a CSV myself? Unfortunately, no. Only SocialBee's team can do that. So you will have to, and I know you have been doing this, Rose, you have to email our team at success@socialbee.com to export the category into a CSV file. Is this a presentation we can review later? Yes, you'll get the replay on email probably tomorrow once it's done processing. Two more questions that I have in here. Actually, one question and one thank you, Anka. Thank you all for your help and suggestions. I'm happy that we're able to help Roz. As usual, if you have any questions, you can always reach out. So the final question that I have here is, when I want to post, for example, the same video on all my social networks, but I want to post it on each platform at different times, how can I do it? I try to add the time button, but I don't understand which time slot addresses which profile. So if you're using the post, let's say we are creating a new post and we add the video just to have it done there. If you're using the add a specific posting time, this will publish it at the same time across the different platforms. So this is not what you want. If you want specific posts, you can just create the content for one. Oops, I opened two post editors, and then duplicate it and change it for the other. However, if you add it into a category instead, so I'm adding it into the case studies category here. All I need to do is go into my schedule and make sure that the case studies category is scheduled for each profile at the time when I want my post. So if I want it on Saturday, let's say I want the case studies to go out on Instagram at 9 p.m., but I want it to go on LinkedIn at 9 a.m. in that case. Okay, so now I have the same category with the same order of posts going out at different times on different platforms, and that's how you do it. Okay, I think those are all of the questions. So with that in mind, thank you all for joining today's session. I hope you found it useful. Once again, use code webinar20 to get 20% off of your desired plan. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to either myself, Anka at socialbee.com, or the entire team at success@socialbee.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you with whatever it is that you need. So that's it from me. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.